How did the greatest city in the world find its quiet one? Did the whispers cease along the Mias? What was the darkness like, a darkness untouched by electric glowy? Darkness held only by the distant vigil lamps of the Theotokos. We often measure the glory of the Byzantines by their gold, their armies, their terrifying fire, but tonight we measure them by the softness of their pillows. The weight of their exhaustion, the peace found after a truly boring day in Constantinople. I'm your host, Nasrullah. From History Lullubay, tonight we drift back to the impossible majesty of the new Rome. We are slipping behind the Theodosian walls, not to witness a triumph, not to fear an invasion, but to simply feel the quiet rhythm of resta rhythm, lost in the dust. Of 1,000 years, this is a story of Byzantium that is rarely told, the history of the silent hours, the slow history of the mundane, the sleep history of an empire that refused to bow. Imagine ourselves together now. It is the hour of Vesper. Sun has made its slow, tired descent over the Marmara Sea. The long shadows of the columns stretch out across the Forum of Constantine. They are melting into the purple twilight. You stand near the hippodrome, not during a chariot race when the noise is deafening, a terror of sound. But now when the crowd has long dispersed, the dust settling slowly. The air is thick with the scent of spices and dry earth and stale sweat. The residual heat of a long, hot day lingers in the stone. The day itself was ordinary. Perhaps the emperor held a minor court dealing with some tiresome tax dispute from Anatolia. Bakers in the city had baked their bread. The fishmongers had shouted their prices. The scribes had dipped their quills for hours. Until their hands ached, it was a day full of friction, a grinding day. And now the city is exhaling a slow, deliberate, collective sigh, I think. Of the sheer effort of existing in the year 1055, every task was demanding. There was no easy transfer. Of power, no quick communication. Every journey was arduous. Every meal required hours of preparation. Byzantine life was not just glorious processions and blinding mosaics. It was also the relentless toil of the hands, the endless struggle against the dust and the insects and the sheer density of millions of people pressed together. This exhaustion is our entry point. We are not looking at power. We are looking at fatigue. The need to simply cease movement, to lie down, the city is preparing itself for. The first quiet interval, the gates are closing. The heavy chains are drawn across the harbor of the Golden Horn. Certain kind of nervous energy is leaving the streets, replaced by the watchful silence of the guards. The change in light is dramatic without modern street illumination. The dusk is not a gradual fade. It is a plunge, a swift swallowing of detail. The complexity of the mosaics on the walls, the intricacies of the carvings, they all dissolve into shadow. You rely now on sound and smell. The sound of the final bells from Hagia Sophia echoing across the imperial quarter, a sound that signifies the close of the light day. And the opening of the sleep night in Byzantium, sleep was structured. It was a functional necessity tied deeply to religious observation and security. It was rarely a luxurious expanse of uninterrupted unconsciousness and us. You were truly powerful, for most people's sleep was segmented. It followed the rhythm of the city's need for vigilance and the monastery's need for prayer. We are now moving into the first watch of the night, the initial deep rest when the citizens of Constantinople, the workers, the servants, the soldiers collapse onto their sleeping mats or their simple wooden couches. The poor often slept on the floor or on beds stuffed with straw or leaves, hardness that molded itself to the weary shape of the body. Wealthier citizens enjoyed mattresses stuffed with wool or feathers, but even these were sparse by modern standards. The weight of the coverlets was key, heavy woven textiles to trap the precious heat, especially in the winter months. Imagine the weight of the dark wool pressing down, a pressure that signifies safety, and rest of pressure that anchors you to the stillness. We move into the great palaces now. The journey through the sacred palace is a journey through descending levels of activity. The kitchens have been banked. Fires reduced to glowing embers. The heavy sweet odor of old cooking fat and roasted meats lingers in the air mixed with the thin smoke of the charcoal braziers used for heating the chambers. The corridors are long and echoing, lined with silent eunuchs carrying small oil lamps there. Shadows stretching out and shrinking back with every slow step here in the Imperial. Residents' sleep is both a political act and a highly guarded vulnerability. Emperor himself rests or attempts to rest. The bedchamber of the basileus was typically a highly adorned, but also intensely secure space. He slept not alone, but surrounded by trusted guards and sometimes high-ranking attendants. The threat of assassination or palace coup never truly slept so. Even the imperial slumber was shallow, a state of necessary alert. Think of the bed itself. Probably a massive structure carved and draped in silks and velvets, purple and gold, the colors of power, even in repose. The noise of the palace during the day was deafening. The endless demands of petitioners, the clatter of the guards, changing shift, but at night, the palace attempts to mimic the silence of a tomb, but silence broken only by the shuffling feet of the patrols and the soft, distant chants of the monastic orders performing their nocturnal duties in the monasteries across the city. The rhythm is different. Sleep is a brief necessary break. The monks practiced strict discipline regarding their rest. They rise sometimes at midnight or before for the office of matins. So their initial sleep after vespers must be deep and immediate, a swift dive into unconsciousness. They'd practiced a segmented sleep cycle known to history as the first sleep and the second sleep. First sleep occurs immediately after sunset, lasting maybe 3 or 4 hours, a necessary restoration of the body's raw energy. Then they wake often in the dark cold. Hours before dawn to pray, to meditate, to perform quiet labor, then they return to rest for the second sleep. Lighter, shorter rest that prepares them for the sunrise and the full day of duty. This segmented sleep was common throughout the Byzantine world. It was not insomnia. It was a natural response to a world where light was a scarce resource and where the night was a communal time of quiet work and religious observance. Imagine yourself waking naturally in the deep dark. You are not alarmed. You do not reach for a glowing screen. You rise. You tend to the needs of your soul or your family or your craft, perhaps. Mending clothes by the faint glow of a small lamp, perhaps. Thinking through the problems of the day without the constant noise of the crowd. The city is mostly dark, but not entirely silent. Listen closely. The sounds of the Byzantine night are soft yet distinct. Distant baying of the street dogs. They are essential to the city's cleanliness, and they mark the territories. The slosh of water from the fountains that run constantly. Heavy tread of the watchman calling out the hours, reassuring human sound against the overwhelming silence of the stone. The scent of wood smoke drifting from the chimneys evenings are the time for serious baking and preparation for the morning market. We move now through a middle-class home near the cistern of Philoxenos. The family is gathered together in a single room. This is typical. Conservation and security meant that many family members slept close together. The sounds of the collective breathing are the sound of safety, the small, soft noises of the children, the deep, even breaths of the parents, a subtle symphony of rest. They have had a substantial evening meal earlier, probably heavy. Bread and beans and olive oil, a peasant meal or a merchant meal, depending on their wealth. The fullness in the stomach aids the desire for rest. It settles the nerves. They are dreaming now. What do they dream of in the 1,000-year-old city? Do they dream of the green fields they left behind in the provinces? Do they dream of the icons of the saints offering protection? Do they dream of gold, or do they simply dream of the continuation of a boring day, their day where their family survives the endless machinations of the world? The Byzantine world did not fear silence the way we do silence. Was a profound reality. It was the absence of man-made noise, the presence of the great quiet of creation. It encouraged contemplation. It forced a reckoning with the self. This quiet acceptance of the night is what we are seeking to recapture now. Slow passage of time marked only by the movement of the stars and the call of the guards are in the period of the second watch, the deepest sleep, when even the guards sometimes nod off at their posts and the city seems truly abandoned to the shadows. You are awake now. You would see the moonlight silvering the domes of the churches. The sheer architectural mass of the city takes on a monumental and quiet power. It is untouchable. It is eternal sleep, is the great equalizer. The emperor and the stable boy are both rendered vulnerable by its demands. They are both relying on the darkness to restore their strength, to mend the frayed edges of their spirit after the rigors of the day. This need for renewal is universal. And in a world where disease and famine and war were always near, sleep was a small, brief victory, a temporary escape from the demands of the body and the demands of the state we are resting together. Now, in the heart of the new Rome, the sounds of the deep past are merely echoes of soft movement, the scraping of a sandal on the cold stone floor, the rustle of heavy cloth being adjusted, the distant quiet chant of a lone monk performing his vigil. These sounds are absorbed by the vastness of the city walls. They do not disturb the essential peace. We drift deeper into this historical silence, allowing the weight of the ancient darkness to settle upon us. A profound historical lullaby, the knowledge that even in the most glittering powerful city that ever existed, life was mostly slow. Life was often boring, and the greatest blessing was the simple right to sleep unburdened by fear or noise for a few quiet hours. May the deep stillness of Constantinople surround you now. May the shadows be soft. May your rest be long and restorative. May return to this quiet history soon. Until then, peace be with you and sleep well to dawn in Augusta SQ. Away we walk now. Away from the silence of history books and onto the wet cobblestones of the Queen of Cities, Constantine. The cool mist rising from the Sea of Marmara, gentle chill despite the coming heat. Stars are fading, now dimming above the massive triple walls of Theodosios. Walls have held the city safe for centuries, and they breathe a sigh of relief with the dawn. The night watch is ending there. Oil lamps sputtering, casting final dancing shadows upon the pale marble of the Mesa de Great Street. This is not a sudden awakening, but a slow unfolding, a quiet stretching of a city that slept fitfully here at first. Sound of water, not the roar of the sea, but the steady trickle from a public fountain filling. The jugs of early risers fetching the freshest. Supply before the city truly stirs in the distancia, sound that defined Byzantine sleep, deep low chanting of monks from a monastery near the Golden Horn, a rhythmic murmur, a perpetual prayer woven into the fabric of the night and the morning. Their prayers are the city's true clock marking, the watch is ushering. The good citizens that the spiritual guardians are awake while they rest. Imagine the air you breathe heavy with the scent of cypress and the lingering smoke of yesterday's bread ovens. Houses are built high and close often, timber framed above the ground floor stone, the slight creak of old woods. A neighbor rises as the softest alarm sleep here was shared with sound not isolated, life of the street seeped into resting. Horse a dog barking at the Gatiza, distant mule caravan riding early. We stand now at the threshold of the day where the deepest sleep finally yields to the demands of lighten, the promise of a long hot boring. Byzantine day just beginning, we leave. The bustle now, the hard-edged energy of the morning prayers and the first wave of commerce. The heat rises, a deep, heavy warmth radiating from the porphyry and the marble Constantinople. Breathed in slowly, this is the Mesembria, the true high noon. Hour of rest, the necessary stillness before the final descent of the sun. The city understands the sun's tyranny. We drift away from the great arteries. The Mesi itself moving into the cooler, quieter side. Streets, the dust that kicked up during the morning. Market settles now softly like fine yellow flour, coating the cobblestones. There are no loud cries here now. Merchant knows better than to challenge the midday sun. His voice would be swallowed by the heat haze. Seek the coolness of the deep archways. The thick walls of the Byzantine houses were not merely for protection. They were guardians against the sun's persistent gaze. They hold the night's chill deep within their stone hearts. A cool reserve waiting for us now. Imagine standing in a shaded portico. Air is motionless yet heavy with the fragrance of cypress. A distant drone is heard, perhaps the sound of the hippodrome still humming from the morning races, or maybe the quiet preparation for tomorrow's events, but even that excitement is muted, muffled. By distance and heat, the day slows down, it must. The Byzantine rhythm is dictated by the energy of the sun and the insistence of the church bells, but the sun demands a pause, a siesta, a necessary cessation of effort. This is not the great sleep of the night. This is the body resetting, the mind drifting lightly across the surface of consciousness. Great halls of the imperial palace may continue their quiet business. Bureaucracy never entirely sleeps, but the soldier, the baker, the textile worker, the common citizen, they seek shade. We find ourselves in a small workshop. The weaver has dropped his shuttle. It rests gently among the threads of rich purple dye. Dye masters, too, have stopped stirring their enormous vats, the intense labor of fixing. Color to fabric is postponed until the cooling of the later afternoon. Listen closely. There's the sound of water, always water in. Constantinople. The great aqueduct of Valens delivers life and coolness. The cisterns deep below the city hold vast dark reservoirs, and in every wealthier home a small fountain drips the constant hypnotic rhythm. Drip, drip, drip against the stone basin. That sound is the very sound of summer stillness in the second Rome. Feel the cool air rise from the mosaic floor. You might lean against a column wrapped in a fine linen shawl, perhaps, watching the motes of dust dancing in the single beam of light that penetrates the drawn curtains. The time is governed by the church, now not by the clock. The clock is an abstraction, a Western invention that has not fully taken root. The bells that ring now are quiet bells. Bells for the sex hour, the midday prayer, gentle reminder that even in stillness the soul must remain vigilant. But vigilance too is a sleepy affair in this warmth. The children are quiet now too. The boisterous play of the morning is exhausted. They rest beneath a fig tree in the courtyard, perhaps told quiet stories by an elderly relative, tales of saints and dragons and the great walls that protect them all. Their breaths are shallow and slow. We allow our thoughts to wander away from duty, away from the anxieties of the morning's trade. We consider the evening meal, the cena, largest meal of the day, the one that precedes a long first sleep. The preparation begins now, gently, slowly. The cooks begin to soak the grains, the lentils, the chickpeas. Slight sounds emerge from the kitchen areas. Soft scraping of a pestle and mortar, grinding spices, pepper, cumin, cinnamon, expensive imports from the distant east. These scents begin to mingle with the cool, damp smell of the cistern water. There is an anticipation now, not of excitement, but of settling. The day is sloping downhill toward the quiet hours. The pressure eases, the need to achieve, the need to rush dissipates. In the Heaton, the monastic communities, the pace is different, but the intention is the same. They move through their afternoon readings and tasks with measured steps. The copying of manuscripts proceeds slowly in the dimly lit scriptorium. The light is bad for the eyes, but the heat necessitates the shade. The scribe dips his reed pen into the ink. Soft scratch, scratch, scratch across the prepared parchment. Sound of endless patience, a meditative sound. We imagine ourselves resting in the triclinium. The dining hall, the room is cool dark, perhaps painted with frescoes of gardens or biblical scenes. We are not sleeping deeply yet. We are waiting for the sun to move its position, waiting for the shadows to lengthen again and soften the edges of the city. The Mesembria is a time of gentle transition, a moment where the body asks for a gift of quietude. You are wealthy enough, you might have a servant fan you slowly. A rhythmic movement of palm leaves or fine woven fabric, a sighing sound that matches the slow rhythm of your own breath. Imagine that gentle breeze soft against your cheek. It carries the faint scent of olive oil and drying. Close your eyes for just a moment. The colors behind your eyelids are warm amber and dusty orange. The echo of the sun outside contained within the body. We are collecting ourselves, gathering the scattered energy of the morning, preparing for the evening's final activities, the walk to the baths, perhaps for cleansing and socializing, the family gathering. For the cena, this gentle slowing is vital to the biphasic sleep pattern of the Byzantine world. The energy must be managed carefully. There is no harsh break, no sudden crash, only this slow, controlled descent into the quiet of the afternoon practice. In letting go, let the sounds of the distant city be a soft wash of noise like the tide moving in and out on the shores of the Propontis, in out soft, gentle. The shade deepens. The temperature outside has peaked and begun its slow, subtle retreat, we feel. The cool breath of the evening approaching, but we are not rushing to meet it. We are enjoying this in between time, this soft, silent core of the Byzantine gate. We rest, we wait, we breathe, we prepare for the nourishing meal that will lead us to the first peaceful slumber. The stillness holds us now, a quiet moment of absolute calm in the heart of the great golden city, safe and cool and deeply settled. The morning sun has climbed over the golden horn, a gentle heat now settles upon the cold marble floors. We move from the resonant echo of the great church away from the hurried devotion off the early hours and back toward the quiet intimate space of the inner chamber, the rhythm of Constantinople, a constant rush of silks and horses begins to dull us. We step into the palace wing, or perhaps the deep, cool heart of a wealthy merchant's houses. Echo. The air is weighted with stillness, a stillness that beckons the body to remember the sweetness of the first. Sleep the long night hours spent stretched upon wool or straw have given way to douches, but the spine still crevasse a moment of reprieve. Feel the subtle shift in your shoulders as you consider the mid-morning pause. It is not yet the time for the formal, non-eve midday prayer that brings a true break, but the body of the Byzantine learned its lessons from ancient Rome, the need for repose, the simple necessity of leaning against something soft. Look around this room. The light is filtered through elaborate marble screens, or perhaps a thin sheet of alabaster. The sun is tamed, hair reduced to a pale gold shimmer. You see the triclinium, or the couches of repose. They are not intended for deep slumber, not now. They are places for contemplation, for dictating letters, and a low voice for the subtle art of relaxation while still being awake. The emperor or the patrician may lean back upon stacked cushions made of costly damask, silk or heavy Egyptian linen. The filling is soft, perhaps goose down, or finely shredded plant fibers. This leaning is a release, a moment where the strict posture of the early day, necessary rigidity of the cord is allowed to soften. Imagine the texture beneath your fingers, smooth, cool silk. The color is deep Redor imperial. Purple, the cushions support your neck, gentle. Cradle for the heavily burdened mind, breathe deeply. The scent is faint cypress wood and dried. Or is this a perfume intended not to excite, but to soothe or dampen the harsh edges off the world outside? The scribes work quietly, their reed pens scratching goop on the prepared parchment, but their movements are slow, respecting this fragile calm. The body is now in a state of conscious deceleration. You might close your eyes for a 5-minute test, not sleeping, but allowing the visual cortex necessary darkness. This is the hidden sleep that pretends to be work. The mental drift that replenishes the spirit without sacrificing the dignity of the busy day. The Byzantines understood this duality, the public face of relentless Dutan, the private need for absolute surrender of it, if only for a few hundred heartbeats. Feel the warmth of the day reaching toward you, but held back by the immense stone walls. Coolness of the room draws the tension from your muscles. Your gaze drifts across the mosaic floor, 1,000 tiny stones arranged in perfect geometric harmony. You are resting, nor resting, in the very heart of the Byzantine Empire, in a moment between La Borsa moment designed for peace, a profound historical hush. Let the subtle sounds fade, the gentle turning of a page, the distant clatter of a mule cart, the slight sigh of the cool air moving throughout the inner court. Let the stones back your foundation bore. The demands off the midday meal, Ervin, the world calls you forward again to wakefulness. We float here in the quiet marble room, suspended between dawn's rigid douches and the coming afternoon's heat. Just be still, this deep historical quietness. A gift that holds you, it settles you. Need for sleep is a powerful titan. Even the great power of Constantinople yield to its subtle pull. Let your own weight sink into the cushions. Feel the relief off temporary support. The day is long, but this moment is entirely yours. A quiet spacing, the relentless Markov, the Roman calendar drift. Soft line, the mid-morning peace. Drift, drift. Did you notice the stillness now? The sun is no longer in adversaria. Searing eye demanding attention. It is descending, retreating behind the colossal bulk of the Theodosian walls. The afternoon heat, the intense shimmering off the August day, finally loosens its grip on Constantinople. This hour of cooling, this period of gentle decline is called Opsius, time of the fading light. We move now from the sharp brightness off the public square to the soft shadows off the private world. Imagine the air itself shifting. It carries the dust less heavily now. Scent of hot stone and stale water gives way to the fresher smell of the sea. Breeze funneling through the narrow streets. Listen closely to the soundscape. Persistent sawing and hammering that define the commerce of the mesa begins to diminish in its place. A deeper, more structured sound rise from the great churches. The enormous bronze bells of Hagia Sophia, the holy apostles, begin to toll the hour of vespers. Evening prayer. These chimes are slow resonant. They are not meant to hurry. They are meant to halt. They signal a spiritual winding down, a collective psychological preparation for the coming night. Hypothetical citizen, low-level bureaucrator, the weary. Silkworm merchantess now engaged in the slow ritual of the Byzantine commute home. He avoids the newly shaded forum. He prefers the quiet Dignitoff. The arcades, the covered porticochère, the shadows are depestin, the air is already cool, his sandals. Softly clap, clap, clap on the polished stone pavimenta. Hypnotic rhythm of release. This movement is essential. Is a physical casting off the mental burdens accumulated to the dawn. Anxieties about the imperial tax collectors, the petty quarrels. With rival merchants, the concerns over the price of grain, they are all slowly shed with. Every deliberate step away from the bustling center, he sees the city changing its face. The food stalls that sold quick flatbreads and hot sausages for the busy midday. Worker air being cleaned and dismantled they are replaced by vendors preparing the evening fare. The heavy rich aromas of simmering lamb stew coming. And oregano, olive oil, and wine, these scents are comforting. They promise satiety and rest, the Byzantines understood. Deep lithe connection between digestion and peaceful sleep. The approaching meal, the deep illness. The cornerstone of their nightly preparation, our citizen may pause at a small neighborhood cisterner. Fountain dedicato, a local saint known for healing. He dips his hand into the water. The shock of the cold liquid is a small jolt of waking life asterisk. Before the great surrender to evening. Cleanses his ice, washing away the dust of the day, the fatigue of his focus. He offers a quick prayer, not a formalized request, but a simple, grateful acknowledgement that the day has been survived. The hymns sung in the nearby churches during Vespers are profoundly moving. They're hymns of light fading off the sun setting. They acknowledge the necessity of darkness, the reliance on divine protection during the hours of the night. This is not a fearful transition, it is an acceptance, a surrender to the ancient. Arrhythmia governs all life. Finally, he reaches his domus. It might stand near the hippodrome here, further up the slope toward the walls, a simple dwelling of stone and timber designed to keep the heat out, and the quiet in the sound of his presence signals his arrival. The gate creaks softly. The domestic peace is already palpably a different density of air inside the courtyard's shadows are deep and complex, gasped by the overgrown grape Benezer, a lone cypress tree. He hears the sounds of his family. The children are generally quieter now. The intense energy of their midday games has been expended. They are engaged in slow-seated play, perhaps, drawing figures in the dust with a sticker, listening to a slave tell a traditional story of Greek heroes or Christian martyrs. His wife greets him not with frantic questions, but with a calm, steady gaze. The conversation is initially muted cues on the purely mundane, the broken roof tile, the need for more wine amphory, the health of a distant cousin. These small details, these anchoring realities, ground the spirit. They prevent the mind from soaring to the worry of the macrocosm. Citizen proceeds to his private bather, a simple basin, and stand. He strips away the tunic and still with that collected the grime of the maze, the pouring of the cool water over the head and shoulders is a profound act of purification or washing away of the workday. The tension drains out off the neck and back. The body softens, releasing the stiffness of hours spent bent over a ledger or standing watch in a smoky shop. He changes into fresh, light linen garments suitable for the indoor evening. It is a costume change for the domestic theatera, signal to the mind and body that the active day is truly finished. He settles in the atrium. The central reception area is still bright and not see clearly, but the light is golden, now diffused, sits on a low wooden bench covered with embroidered cushions and stretches his tired feet. This interval between cleansing the evening meal is sacred. It must not be rushed. It is the moment of pure transition. Final letting go. A servant brings him the wine. It is always diluted with water. The Byzantine custom dictates that heavy intoxication is unfit for both a Christian and a Roman citizen. Alcohol is intended to soothe, not to stupefy. The wine is cool, slightly acidic. The taste is complex of sea salt and sun-warmed grapes. He sips slowly, deliberately, tastes a measured step away from the concerns of commerce. He might be joined by his eldest son, a young man, perhaps learning trade of his father. Father offers gentle advice here, simply listens to. The boy's recounting of his own day, the boredom of the apprenticeship, the dullness of memorizing scriptural passages. These intergenerational conversations are the threads that weave a fabric of the family structure. They confirm continuity, they ensure stable yet crucial element for restful sleep. The late afternoon light no slips. Further wind, we enter the hour of like napsia, lighting of the lampsay. Low-ranking servant, perhaps a young slave woman, enters, carrying a tray bearing several small bronze lamps called, like noithes, are filled with oil, usually expensive olive oil. The wicks are thin, made of twisted flax. Approaches slowly, reverently, almost the flame is coaxed into being a tiny, steady heart of light. The bronze reflects the flicker creating dancing patterns on the ceiling. This artificial light is weak, is not designed for productivity. It is designed for intimacy. You cannot pour over maps or write detailed letters of credit be this soft glow. It forces the body to slow down. It necessitates sitting close together, encourage quiet conversation and the telling of stories. The transition is now complete. The city has dimmed. The outside world has been locked out. The family unit is illuminated. Its own small island of weak flame, the heat, is defeated. The hunger is building. The body is cleansed. The mind drifts gently between the remnants of the active day and the promise of the coming darkness. Citizen may reflect in a particularly beautiful chant hard during Vespers, the repetition of the words, the slow melodic structure is a hypnotic effect. The church provides a liturgy of psychological descent. It teaches the faithful that the night is a time for trust, time for submission. The long unwinding of the Byzantine day is a lesson, and patient deceleration. They never rushed their rest. They understood that quality of sleep is determined by the quality of the stillness achieved in the hours immediately preceding it. Heavy stone of the domus also seems to absorb all sound from the outside world. The faint cry of a distant night guard, the sound of a lone donkey cart carrying the last deliveries of the day, they are muffled, distant irrelevant to the inner peace. We sit now in a deep shadow warmed by the anticipation of the deep ninth greatest meal, a slow feast of vegetalist perps, fish or fowl served with slow roasted breads. Process of digestion will lead directly into the first deep sleep of the night feel. The weight leaving your shoulders as our Byzantine host feels the day lift from his own. The transition is peaceful. Light is soft. The city is quiet. We wait now for the final acts before the great dark. The long, boring day in Constantinople is almost over, and the promise of deep sleep is drawing closer, now closer. The peaceful settling of the world. A deep breath, a slow exhalation. We are ready now for the evening feast and the coming quietude. Chi sun hangs heavy now in the Byzantine sky. Ball of white fire above the marble streets. The intense light has driven all active sound away. Constantinople breathes, shallowly a city, holding its breath, waiting for the shadows to lengthen again. This is the hour of Mezembriath, holy noon reached one. The clock itself seems to move with extreme slowness. A deep somnolence descends upon the imperial city. It is not the absolute darkness of midnight, but the absolute quiet of midday heat. We drift now into the recess of that afternoon, to time when all thoughts are allowed to stagnate like the air in the corners of the courtyard. Simijane. The great palace, again, its thick walls are our guardians against the heat built over centuries of stone and brick. They maintain an interior coolness, a sanctuary of shadow and damp air. Cool air moves sluggishly within the hallways. Emperor perhaps does not sleep the sleep of the peasant, but he rests his eyes. As his period of quiescent reflection, curtains of purple silk are drawn closet they filter the bright light into a soft glow, a golden haze dusting the iconostasis. Silence is broken only by the faint sound of water running slowly through a hidden lead. Pipe into a marble basin. His advisors are going. His servants move on tiptoes and tire. Imperial machinery has stopped a moment of pause before the grinding restart of the late afternoon. Lies on a low couch. Perhaps he reads a psalm softly to himself. Perhaps he just listens to the quiet weight of the crown lifted for a brief hour down. In the markets of the Mesa, the merchants have closed their solid wooden shutters. Great street now. A row of blank-faced hutters of oak and cedar, heaping the gold and the linen and the spices. Safe, but more importantly, keeping the heat outside of thee. Eat light, perhaps some cool cheese and flatbread soaked, and a little watered winning They lay down on simple woven mats spread over the coolest. Slabs of stone floor behind the counter, slight dampness from the ground rises up to soothe empty. Seek the earth's natural refrigeration. Sleep of the Mesembria is differentiated, is a state of dozing off half-wakefulness, a liminal state, where the sounds of the street are muffled, but not gonia, dog barks, far away, hooves of a late carriage echo. Faintly, and then the echo fades into the heat hazy that listen to the drip, drip, drip of a nearby fountain, the faint hum of flies trying to find a way on a slow, steady sound that is itself a form of quiet. They consciously let their minds go slower. Then the muddy flow of the Bosporus in summer consider the monasteries high on the hillsides. The monks have completed their office of noon temporarily. Set aside, they now have their period of quiescent rest, their cells of bare and simple cooled. Only by the thickness of the stone and the shade of the ancient cypress trees outside it. Air inside smells of dusted parchment and the residual sweetness of insomnia. Profound silence reigns within the cloister walls. They lay down on hard wooden benches, on straw mats. They pray for rest. They seek the coolness of the soul. Quiet helps them to let go of the worldly distraction. Shared breathing becomes a slow rhythm, and out they dream perhaps of the saints off the coolness of paradise, of the quiet sands of the desert. Fathers a place where the silence is absolutist. They sleep to repair themselves, best to gather spiritual strength for the evening. Hours for the Vespers office, for the long vigils. This midday sleep is not a luxury, it is a cultural necessity. Byzantines knew that the harshest time of day requires the deepest recess from afford a quiet recess from. The burden of the sun city is still, now Constantinople is a giant asleep in the heath. Streets are the cobblestones are almost painful to look at, shimmering in the heat. He cat slowly stretches in the narrow strip of sunlight and then retreats deeply into the cool shadow of a wall. World has paused its spin, pause with it, accept the weight of the midday soon end. Let the heavy quiet pull us down into the shade, down into the coolness of the marble floor, down into the slow rhythm of the Byzantine rust feel. The coolness of the stone under your skin feel. The thick walls holding the world at bay. Air is dense, air is slow. Noise has been drowned out by the heat itself. Sleep slowly, now rest deeply, now in the heart of Mesembria. Quiet waits for you to join night, and we continue to drift gently, drifting now in the deep quiet of Byzantium's long afternoon. Dios, the afternoon has softened the high heat of the midday suna, feverish glow on the marble eyes now sinking slowly into the western horizon of the Propontis. The shadows lengthen like tired monks stretching their limbs across the massive cobblestones of the Nissa the Great Avenue, Chapter 7. Air cools, finale a sweet relief, smelling faint lie-off, salt brine, and the damp earth from the palace gardens where the irrigation canals still weep softly. Their duty is done for the long day, the Byzantine. Day is drawing its weary breath, its administrative engines are slowing to a halt. The scribes in the various secretariats of the great palace have finished their last roll, their final tally. Seal of the emperor has been pressed onto the last important document requiring immediate attention before the night. Descends a great silk blanket, listen closely now. Clamor that defined the hours off the third watch and the sixth watch. Rush and roar of the imperial city at its peak is receding, retreating like the tide pulling back from the shore, leaving behindly smooth, quiet sand. Footsteps are fewer, no more deliberate, more measured. They are the steps of guards performing their final patrols. Steps of patriarchs prepping for the evening of Isa. Steps of servants bringing out the oil lamps to pierce the coming darkness. Transition from the world of light of the world of shadow, Issachar in Constantinople, is the time of Vespers. The call to prayer is not the loud, insistent voice of the Calto. Mark it, but a deep, reverberating hum from the multitude of churches that stud the city landscape. Hagia Sophia itself sighs a long low note, a bass. Vibration that travels through the ground up the solace of your feet, gentle reminder of that spiritual scaffolding that holds this great capital upright against the weight of the night. We move our focus now away from the bustling forum, away from the hippodrome stables and toward the quiet. domesticity of the late afternoon. The average resident, the politicos citizen of this magnificent city is preparing for the deep-nant final meal of the day. It is not a feast. The Byzantines valued restraint. They knew the dangers of a full stomach before sleep, a heavy body. A troubled mind, they sought lightness and clarity imagine. The simple kitchen, a small hearth, perhaps fueled by dried olive pits or scavenged wood. The smell is comforting, the humble aroma of a baking barley bread. The rich scent of olive oil poured generously over the latter harvested seasonal greens. A little fish. Maybe salted cod preserved safely, or perhaps small fresh melts free quickly in a shallow pan. A family gathers slowly. They speak in low tones there. Voices muffled by thick stone walls of their homes. Their conversation is about the day of price. Of weave performance of a favorite charioteer, small joke, perhaps a soft moment of domestic peace. The light inside these homes is a golden pool cast by the flickering wicks of a clay lamp. The shadows dance in the corner, soft, silent partners to the evening. They stretch and shrink with smallest movement of air. Quiet, mesmerizing show-off, visual lullaby before the final departure into full darkness. In the wealthy home, preparation is more elaborate. The underlying principle of moderation remains. The mosaic floors gleam, reflecting the lamplight. The servants move with practiced silence. A choreographed ballet of service wine is poured at the thin, sour variety of commoner, rich, heady vintages from the Aegean island, still diluted. With water for sobriety is paramount even for the elites. The conversation here might involve with intricacies of palace protocol. Rumors of the latest barbarian incursion or the theological fine points debated in the synod yet even this serious talkies, subdued by the lateness of the hour and the coming need for rest, the emperor himself, the Basilius in the sanctuary of the great palace, is also preparing for his deep-on. His meal, too, is often surprisingly simple, symbolic of his humility before Godin. His distance from the decadence of the old Roman Empire he now oversees. He eats alone, sometimes or perhaps with the impressa, a very small circle of trust. The vast dining halls, the tricliniver, silent ghosts of former banquets, no resting, waiting for the next great statio occasion to wake them. The weight of the crown is briefly, lift head metaphorically placed upon a velvet cushion. Until dawn, the silence in the imperial chambers is not merely the absence of noise, it is an enforced, deeply structured silence. Guards outside the golden door stand, utterly motionless, their breathing regulated, slow. They communicate only through tiniest nonverbal. Quessa, a slight shift of the weight, a barely audible tap of the spear in the stone floor. They are the boundary between the ruler and the world. They ensure that nothing, no sound, no shadow, no distraction can trouble the sovereign's rest. The emperor might spend the final hour before complete darkness writing. Does not read frivolous novels. He reads the sacred texts, commentaries of the church, father's histories of his predecessors. He feeds his mind slowly, calmly with the great intellectual nourishment of his civilization. The lamplight illuminated Teshi, heavy vellum scroll. His eyes travel across the Greek script, a soothing, predictable rhythm of intellectual engagement that requires concentration, but also encourage pistis. Quiet time, this reflective pauses. Essential for the Byzantine mind, it is the time to shed the day's stress. Anxieties of governance, fear of treachery, worry about the Persians or the Slavs. They knew that a troubled mind will bring a restless sleep and a poor awakening, so they meticulously cultivated this moment of stillness. Imagine the sense again. Transition from the savory smells of the kitchen to the cleaner, sharp aroma of incense. Many Byzantines would burn a small bit of frankincense before rendering a final act of purification, a sweet-smelling offering. They smoke rises thinly, a pale blue thread against the stone. It moves slowly, spiraling upward like a prayer entering the upper rooms, cleaning the air. The smell is ancient, deeply comforting, deeply calming. This ritual of cleaning the air both physically and spiritually is a key preparation for sleep. It prepared the bedroom, a space they treated with reverence. The bedroom was not merely a place of rest, it was a sanctuary place where the body was most vulnerable, thus most needing of protection. The bed itself was often simple, though rich fabrics were used by the wealthy. High beds raised off the floor to avoid the cold and the pests. Mattresses were stuffed with wool or feathers, or sometimes dried reeds. The Linens were usually plain white, symbolizing purity, a heavy blanket for warmth during the cool. Constantinople nights, especially when the Bosphorus wind whipped through the streets, they did not go straight to bed immediately after the tenement. There was a brief period of socializing or spiritual practice, telling of stories softly to the children, the recitation of the Psalms. The lighting of the candlelight, small oil lamp kept burning before the icon of the patron saint, the Mother of God. This light would stay on all night, a watchful eye, a defense against the darkness. Symbolic representation of the eternal flame of faith. The whole city is sinking now into a quiet routine. The great gates are being closed, massive bronze and iron doors swinging, shut with a heavy, deep-duty, definitive sound that seals Constantinople from the chaotic world outside its Theodosian walls. The guards on the ramparts begin their longer, slower watch. They pace the massive stones, their shadows stretched in distorted beat. The faint moonlight, the sounds of the harbor too are becoming muffled. The creak of the ships rigging the soft lap of the water against the golden horn jetties. The merchants have packed away their wares, their haggling done, their counting finished. They are seeking their own rest now in the taverns or in their humble upper rooms above the shops. City is inhaling, deeply preparing for the extended period to repose. The Byzantine concept of sleep was practical and restorative. It was also viewed through a spiritual lens. It was a small death, a temporary separation from Thuking world, a moment of vulnerability. Thus, the need for final prayers for a careful placement of icons for the cleansing of the mind, it was necessary to entrusting us to God before. Slipping into that unknown state, we follow the faint lamp light down the narrow alleyways. The air grows heavy with the smell of wood smoke and jasmine from the small hidden gardens, and noise is almost entirely gone. Only the distant soft howl of a stray dog, perhaps, or the rustle of a mouse behind a plaster. The silence is not empty. It is full of the potential of thousands of people resting. The mass unconscious Friedhof, the great city rest, is not a luxury here, right? Is a necessity of governance, of survival. Empire demands clear mind, steady hands, and strong bodies, and those require careful preparation for the night's deep slumber. We observe the final movements, the slow unlacing of the day's garments, simple washing of the face and hands, the final blessing. Traced over the body, a slow sign of the cross, a farewell to the conscious self as the deeper self begins its slow descent. Quiet hum of the nidus and anchor it keeps the city from drifting too far into chaos, as a rhythmic promise saith that the sun will return to the duties will resume. The Byzantines knew the importance of routine, of predictable peace, especially in the tumultuous world. They inhabited this slow, measured winding down to patient preparation for sleep was their bulwark, their defense. Against worry, the darkness is now almost complete, broken only by those small, flickering candlelights of defiant light scattered. Across the sprawling city, each light represents a soul resting, preparing, dreaming. Each light is a small fire of hope, a beacon. Of returning day, we drift alongside the silent sentinels of the night. Our journey continues slowing down, now matching the pace of the resting city. But the great walls hold fast. The citizens sleep secularly, protected by stone, protected by routine, protected by faith. The weight of the day has been lifted. The complex bureaucracy demanding Tredevi, endless court. Intrigal pause suspended until the morning trumpet sounds the heavy silence of a city completely. At rest is deepened wonderfully, peacefully, silence. Meant for restoration, a silence meant for profound sleep. We, too, settle now into the growing stillness feeling, the slow, steady rhythm of Constantinople breathing a long, soft breath out, a long, soft breath in drifting now deeper into the shadows of the evening light. The peace of the ancient Byzantine night settle upon you, a long, slow wave of calm washing away the dust of the day. Profound silence, perfect preparation for rest. The long shadow of the sun has entirely surrendered to the velvet darkness of God's own keeping. We leave the flickering light of the triclinium. The echo of the last shared joke fades upon the mosaic floor now. We drift deeper toward the most sacred ritual of the Byzantine day, the quiet preparation for the first true rest. I am your host, Nasrullah, and this is History Lullubay. We follow the path of the dutiful citizen of Constantinople as he sheds the heavy cloak of his daytime duties and prepares his soul for the stillness of the night. We move gently through the cold Stone corridors. The air is cooler, calmer, carrying the scent of ancient marble and dried herbs, meant to ward away the small night pests. Great city outside, which roared with the thunder of hooves and the shouting of vendors, now merely whispers. It is a low, constant hum, a deep vibration felt more in the chest than heard with the ear. The sounds are muted, softened by the massive walls that have guarded this jewel on the Bosphorus for centuries. Imagine the subtle change in the light earlier there. Was the rich golden glow of olive oil lamps illuminating the faces of the dinner guests now. In the sleeping chamber, only a single modest wick remains. Burning low in a heavy ceramic bowl, it is barely enough light to see the iconostasis where the painted eyes of the Theotokos watch over your repose. This gentle, weak light is not meant for reading or working. It's merely a guide. Small star in your personal darkness, reminding you that vigilance is required even when the body rests. The flame. Dance is subtly agitated by the slow movement of air circulating within the chamber. Shadows that cast are long and fluid, they stretch and shrink over the walls, creating silent, moving shapes. Do not fear these shapes, they are merely the ghosts of daylight hours retreating from your consciousness. They are harmless reminders of the busy day now safely filed away feel. The temperature against your skin, you shed the heavier woolen tunic worn for the evening meal, you stand in a thin linen shift. Comfortable, simple, and pure the Byzantine night air even in summer. Carried a significant chill thanks to the proximity of the Sea of Marmara, but your sleeping chamber is specifically designed to manage. The walls are several feet thick built. Of carefully cut stone quarried miles away, they hold the heat of the day and release it slowly throughout the long, cool night. You approach this debadium. This is not a simple bed as we know it today. It's often a raised semicircular couch built into the wall structure itself, sometimes featuring luxurious draped coverings. It is functional, sturdy, and promises deep, reliable rest. The mattress beneath you is filled with the softest wool, the very best imported from the sheep, grazing the high Thraces. Planes, it cradles your body, it supports the weight of your shoulders, and the curve of your tired back sink into that firm comfort and softness. Layers of linen sheath are cool, initially a refreshing contrast to the warmth of your skin as you settle. They quickly absorb your own warmth, creating a private cocoon of comfort. We pause for the final mental preparation in Constantinople. The mind rarely stops churning with the vast complexities of imperial life. There are small sachets of dried marjoram and lavender placed strategically beneath the pillows. These scents are ancient remedies, known across the Roman world for their power to soothe the anxious mind and invite peaceful dreams. Breathe in that sharp, earthy lavender aroma. Let it cleanse the air and cleanse your thoughts. The scent is faint, is not overwhelming. It is merely a suggestion of peace, a fragrant assurance of safety. Soundscape of Constantinople in the dead of the evening is remarkable. If you listen closely, you can distinguish the final sounds of the sleeping city. The great chains that guard the golden horn are silently settled, the sentries pace slowly on the walls, their footsteps muffled by the thick leather of their caligae. You might hear the distant lonely cry of a seabird circling over the harbor, searching for its nester. Perhaps the faint far-off barking of a dog responding to a perceived threat near the Hebdomon polysembles away. All these noises are integrated into the deep, persistent silence. They are not disturbances, they are affirmations of the distance between the city's frantic life and your own quiet stillness. Your limbs begin to feel heavy, pleasantly weighted by the exhaustion of a long day of navigating the massive urban landscape. Your feet, which walked miles upon the mazy, the central marble avenue, are thankful for the softness of the bed. Your hands, which counted coins or transcribed scrolls or held the reins of a chariot, are now relaxed, palms open, and receiving the rest focus. On the texture of the sheet pressed against your cheek, it is cool and smooth, fine Egyptian linen traded expensively through Alexandria or perhaps locally produced in the imperial workshops. The quiet rhythm of your breathing slows, becomes deeper, more intentional. Each breath in is renewal, each breath out is release. We are settling into the first sleep, the deep, powerful, and restorative phase of nocturnal rest that the ancients valued so highly. This initial sleep will last until the midnight hour. It is the necessary preparation for the vigil. The brief waking period that follows, which is dedicated to contemplation and often prayer or study before the second. Sleep claims you, but we focus only on this immediate comfort. The darkness deepens. Small lamp will soon flicker and die, leaving the room in profound shadow. Trust the shadows they hold. No harm for you here. Are protected by the weight of this? Ancient civilization, protected by the strong walls of your home and the quiet certainty of your faith hall, is well in the great city hall, is resting under the Byzantine sky. Great machinery of the empire has temporarily ceased its turning. The emperor himself sleeps behind the impenetrable walls of the great palace. The patriarch sleeps, the soldiers sleep, the merchants dream of trade routes and profitable journeys. You are simply one soul among thousands, finding refuge in the quiet moment between yesterday and tomorrow. The weight of the world is lifted entirely. Your eyelids feel heavy. They resist any effort to open. They simply want to remain closed, to focus the inner eye on peace. The sensation of floating begins that sweet transition where thoughts dissolve into pure feeling. The last thought is of gratitude for the simple perfection of this moment. The cold stone, the soft wool, the faint scent of lavender, the deep pervasive quietude is the perfect setting for absolute rest drift now. With the slow, gentle rocking of the city's great slumber, let the historical weight of Constantinople press down on you gently, soothingly. You are secure, you're restful, you're ready for sleep. Sleep deeply now, sleep peacefully now, sleep wonderfully. Now the long light of Constantinople begins its gentle surrender. Softness creeps into the stone of the cisterns. The harsh yellow of the afternoon sun is replaced by the honey glow of Hespera, deepening shadow that moves across the sprawling hills of the city like a slow, cool river flowing toward the sea. We shift now with the faithful leaving the day behind, sweat and the toil and the endless chatter of the mazy fades, into a murmur, a low hum of closure. The great bronze doors of the imperial offices are beginning their heavy, slow swing inward, signaling the end of the Roman workday, a workday measured not by the clock we know, but by the exhaustion of the light and the demanding schedule of the sacred. Do you hear it now, that distant chiming? It is not the ringing of bells like those of the later eras, but the rhythmic striking of the Symmetron wood on wood or iron on iron, a meditative clack-clack calling the pious soul to the evening service, to vespers, the moment when the day is officially given back to the keeping of the night. Imagine standing on the terrace of a small home high above the Golden Horn. Smell of dust and dry spices is slowly being overcome by the rising steam of evening cooking. Simple smells for simple lives. Olive oil. Rich and sharp lentils simmering gently in clay pots. Flatbread fresh from the community oven. Final transaction of the day, the gathering for the deep non the evening. This meal is less about sustenance, more about the ritual of reunion. Family gathers often quickly before the precious oil lamps must be lit. And here lies a deep truth of the Byzantine nightlight is expense. Darkness is economy. The wealthier household can afford the brilliant golden light that burns late casting long. Dancing shadows on mosaic floors, illuminating scrolls and philosophical discourse, but for the majority, the many thousands who sleep and toil within the great Theodosian walls. Sinking of the sun is a hard deadline. It dictates the rhythm of their rest. Sleep is cheaper than oil, and so the evening meal is swift daytime for quiet recitation. Sharing of the day's small struggles and small triumphs. The father speaks briefly. The children listen. Mother pours the thin sour wine diluted with water. The sounds of the day, the hammers, the shouts, the clattering carts are replaced by the small, intimate sounds of chewing. The clinking of ceramic bowls, the slow, deliberate swallow. The body is preparing itself, not just for the table, but for the true rest. The great dark ocean of the first sleep. Feel the cool air drift over your face. It carries the faint scent of incense from the churches closing their doors. Or perhaps it is the smoke from the hundreds of small hearths where the cooking has just finished. It is a smell of ancient permanence. Smoke, wood ashes, and human life contained. The servants, if the household is fortunate enough to have them, are now completing their final tasks, sweeping the atrium with brushes made of reeds, bringing in the water for the morning wash, securing the windows with their oiled parchment coverings, blocking out their emerging stars, and the deeper blackness of the alleyways. Security is paramount. Constantinople is a great, glorious, beautiful city, but it is also a city of shadows and opportunists. So the barring of the doors is not just a gesture, it is a necessary ritual of survival. The heavy wooden beam slides into place. Sound of finality, a sound that separates the safety of the interior from the mystery of the exterior world now. We watch as the lamps are trimmed. A small, flickering light is all that is permitted, just enough to guide the family too. Their shared sleeping space, remember, the Byzantine bedit is rarely the soft mattress of the modern age. Often it is a simple low wooden frame covered with thick woolen blankets or hides. The poorer folk might sleep on straw mats directly on the floor sharing. Warmth in tightly knit groups, a collective breath against the cold stone. In the Roman tradition, the idea of separate bedrooms. For every individual is mostly a luxury. The family sleeps together. The servants sleep in their designated quarters, perhaps. In the cold storage rooms near the kitchen or huddled in the porticos is the contubernium, the shared tent, the communal sleep. Profound physical intimacy born of necessity, and that necessity is the fear of the dark, the complete impenetrable dark that reigned before. The widespread use of street lighting, imagine extinguishing the last flame, the wick sputtering its final defiant flare, and then nothing. No light pollution, no glowing digital screens, only the deep starred blackness filtered through the roof tiles. Is a darkness that demands trust in the strength of the walls, trust in the nearness of your kin, and trust in the protection of the Theotokos, the Mother of God, whose icon watches from its niche high on the wall in the silent darkness of these Byzantine homes. The last thoughts before sleep are often prayers, not formalized liturgy, but simple, honest requests. For protection, for the harvest, for the health of the emperor, and for safe passage through the night, because the night is always slightly dangerous. It belongs to the demons, the ghosts, the thieves, and the unsettling whispers of the wind as the body settles. Onto the hard frame, the muscles relax from the day of carrying burdens or measuring silk or copying texts. The ears strain momentarily listening. For the final sounds of the city, the distant patrol of the Vigla, the city watch, the gentle lapping of the water in the cistern, the soft breathing of the children nearby, the air is still. Now the city has pulled its great blanket of silence over itself. The thousands upon thousands of bodies that make up this eternal city are settling into their first rest. The somnus, the deep sleep that arrives shortly after sundown, is a heavy restorative sleep, not yet disturbed by the physical needs of the night or the anxiety of the coming dawn. Let the coolness of the Byzantine evening wash over you. Let the heavy silence of the closed city be your guide into the deep comfort of unknowing. The stone is cool, the wood is silent, the world outside the heavy doors. Nothing to you, now only the slow rhythmic rise and fall of your own ancient breath. You are safe within the walls. The great city of Constantine, drifting down toward the first true sleep. The quiet peace of the coming darkness receives you fully sleep. Now, beloved listener, sleep deeply, sleep without concern. We'll wait here until the midnight bell sleep. Now the city breathes so slowly, now its great stone lungs, expanding and contracting only slightly under the massive weight of history. We drift toward the final depth of the Byzantine night. The second sleep is upon USA, heavier, more necessary rest. The first watch, the middle watch, they are whispers of memory now lost. In the velvet thickness of the deep imperial chambers, imagine the emperor deep within the sacred palace walls, 8,000 years of Roman lineage setting down around his slumber. The world outside has vanished. The great golden horn is still, its waters reflecting nothing now but the faint distant starlight. The cold stone of Constantinople, a perfect insulator of silence. The sound of the night guard's boots has completely dissolved. No clanking of armor, now no distant barking of the dogs, no murmur of tavern talk. The city is held suspended, a vast breathing stillness, uninterrupted, kind of deep quiet that only immense civilization can truly achieve. When resting, feel the weight of the blanket, the softness of the linen sheets, woven with painstaking Byzantine skill, a comfort earned by the endless negotiations and the endless prayers. This second sleep is the anchor, is the moment. A body rebuilds, the mind finally releases. Burdens carried since the last sunset, the flicker of the oil lamp which might have been kept low during the middle wakefulness. That tiny flame has long gone out now. There is only shadow total engulfing Shadow, the kind of shadow that whispers security and deep rest. We listen for the subtle sounds, but even they seem muffled by the layers of silk and tapestry, and the immense thickness of the porphyry columns, perhaps. A faint sound of dripping water from a high cistern feeding the palace. A steady rhythmic sound like a slow, quiet clock measuring. The passing of the deep hour drip drip, drip it is a sound that soothes, reminder of life giving water, but so distant, so soft it serves only to deepen the trance. Nobles sleeping now dreams, not of battles or of taxes. Those anxieties are too sharp for this deep state of rest. No, the dreams now are of texture of the cool marble beneath the feet of, the sweetness of dried figs, of the scent of cypress wood burning slowly. In the braziers, dreams of floating, dreams of drifting. The physical body is heavy, unmoving, unconcerned with the endless machinations of the imperial court. Is a blessed escape from the reality of the walls, from the expectation of dawn, from the constant threat of the barbarian gaze. The air itself is cooler now, the deepest part of the night, when the heat absorbed by the stone throughout the long summer day has finally dissipated into the ether. Air circulates slowly, bringing with it a scent of sea. Salt and old parchment, and the faint lingering smoke of sandalwood incense. Breathe deeply, feel that cool Byzantine air filling your lungs, allowing your muscles to slacken further and further still. This is the sleep of empires, Sleep that understands that the vast complicated structure must be completely still for a few crucial hours to be able to function again. The memory of the day, it filters through the sleeping mind, not as sharp events, but as gentle colors. The deep purple of imperial robes, the bright gold of the mosaics, the cool gray of the ancient stones. These colors pass by slowly like clouds across a nighttime moon, unjudged, uncommented upon, just existing in the space behind the closed eyelids. There's no rush here. There's only the long slow slide toward the eventual dawn, but dawn is far away. We are suspended in the perfect midpoint of rest, the maximum distance from the demands of yesterday and the duties of tomorrow. The sleeping mind of the patrician or the humble workshop owner, they both seek this deep sanctuary, the absolute quietude offered by the vast stone city, the noise of the daytime bazaar, the shouts of the silk merchants, the prayers and the Hagia Sophia, all compressed into a tiny point of utter silence. Listen closely to it. Silence itself, it has a texture, it has a faint sound, a low resonant hum. The sound of the sleeping earth turning slowly, slowly, slowly beneath the foundations of the Theodosian walls, beneath the floorboards of the palace chambers. The earth is rotating, bringing us gently closer to the light, but not yet. We have time, still time to inhabit this stillness, this profound peacefulness, the very core of rest. Imagine the feeling of drifting away from the anchor, letting go of the last few threads of conscious thought. The problems of the day, they shrink into insignificance against the backdrop of the eternal night. The great Byzantine clocks, the water clocks, the klepsydrasti, measure time constantly, but in this deep sleep, time loses its meaning. It stretches and dissolves it. Becomes vast and liquid. You are floating in the stream of timeless rest. Body feels heavy and secure, encased in the solid architecture, protected by the watchman, protected by the blessing of the church, protected by the sheer scale of the slumbering metropolis. No worries can penetrate this deep, serene shield. This is the restorative sleep that keeps the empire running, that ensures the sun will rise on. A functioning world. Feel the coolness on your cheek, the deep, steady rhythm of your own breath slowing down, harmonizing with the deep breath of the city. Inhale the stillness, exhale. Let the vast quiet of Constantinople envelop you entirely, from the thick stone floor to the high carved ceilings. Ready? Move now toward the final moments of this ultimate rest. The first hint of light is coming, but it is still a long way off. The deepest sleep is ending and a slow transition begins, but the quiet remains paramount. The stillness is still total. We settle in for the final drift before the sounds of the dawn begin. To stir the great city, rest, deeply rest, completely. You are secure. Your still all is quiet now, all is well. The final moments of the deep night hold you safely till the next chapter, until the sound of the cock crow announces the slow return of the light. But not yet, just stillness now. Perfect. Byzantine rests deep and heavy and still under the gaze of the forgotten stars. To silence now, deeper silence. That in Constantinople is never quite empty. It is filled with the ghosts of the day, the echoes of chance. From the Hagia Sophia, whisper of silk as empresses move through the sacred palace. But for you, there's only this darkness. This piece out of the oil lamp is out of its wick. Smoldering gently, a final puff of smoke rises and vanishes into the high ceiling. Chamber is cooler now. The night air has settled. Stone walls hold the cold, but your bed is warm. You are lying down in the softness of your Byzantine rest. Body sinks into the mattress made by teas. Filled with pure wool, maybe soft down, maybe. It's just straw, but it is your rest. It is your sanctuary feel. The weight of your shoulders dissolve into the bed. The tension that clung to the muscles of your back is really subjugated all the way to the ancient city beneath your breathing has changed it. Is nitrogen monoxide. Longer, the shallow gasps of the marketplace. It is deep, slow, measured rhythm of peace inhale. Slowly exhale, complete lie. Day is gone. The emperor is asleep. The vigilantes are on duty. There is nothing for you to do, nothing to think about, just the simple act of being a resident of the great city at its most vulnerable and its most calmimogen. The veil of sleep descending it is a heavy brocade shroud woven with night starts, drags down your eyelids. They feel heavy, 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 too tired to stay open, too tired to curry the last of the day's worries. There's small boat sailing out. They drift away towards the Black Sea. I'll watch them go. They are nitrogen monoxide, longer you're concerned. Complex tax code. The next fast, the plot, and the centennial. IT is for the morrow. The morrow is many hours away now. Is only the present moment coolness of the linen. Against your skin, faint scent of lavender or perhaps rosewater. That perfumed your wash. Silence is a warm blanket. Listen closely to the Distancia sounds so far away, it might be a dream. It is the gentle lapping of the Marmara Sea washing against the city walls, a soft hush, hush, hush against. The Theodosian defenses, water has been doing this for 1,000 years, and more is the Earth's own lullaby is the ancient Constantinople, singing you to sleep. Your feet are heavy, your legs are weight, your arms are leaden, they rest by your side, perfectly still you are. Sinking deeper into the comfort, a warm, heavy, sinking feeling count. The steps downwards from 10 to 010. The distant guard trumpet sounds the change of watch 9. Your brow smooths all wrinkles. Release date. The weight of your jaw relaxes. The tongue rests softly seven. Your chest rises and falls a perfect peaceful sways. The marble floor below is cold, but you are warm and safe. 5. The faint light of the moon perhaps slants across the room for your muscles are like wet sand, soft and unresisting. 3. The sounds of the night become one smooth drone of Contour. You are so deep, you are floating, but heavy one almost there, almost gone zero. Complete darkness, complete rest, complete Byzantine peacelet. The images of the day go, bright colors of the mosaics fade to black and white. The roar of the horses in the hippodrome is a mere whisper. Mild smell of spices from the golden horn is gone, replaced by clean night air. You are cleansed of the dathis is the secret of the Byzantine night. Day was a complex labyrinth of protocol and power, but the night. I.S. simply, night is rest, night is the body, reclaiming its rightful piece. You are free of your station, free of your duties, whether you are a basileus or a simple. Cobbler's sleep equalizes all here in the darkness. We are all just travelers drifting. On the same sea of night, allow yourself to drift further and further. The gentle pull of sleep is irresistible, is soft and kindred, is the oldest. Comfort, your eyes are closed. They will not open again until the sun rises over the walls, until the priests begin their early matins, until the first vendors set out their wares. But that is hours away, hours of pure unbroken rest. Let the mind slow down to more chasing thoughts. Just open field of darkness and calma. Vast, quiet garden of night. Feel the weight of the coverings, the texture of the silk, or the woolet is a physical barrier against the world. You are safe. You are protected by the great city and by your own quiet sanctuary. Every muscle, every nerve is quiet. Now heartbeat is steady and slow. Blood flows gently, a quiet river within you. It carries away the last of the stress. You are falling softly downwards, a gentle descent into the deep waters of sleep. Water is warm. It is supportive. It holds you perfectly still. Rest in the quiet shadow of the great imperial palacerist. Amidst the marble and the gold rest in the heart of the world. Constantinople sleeps, and you sleep. With Ida, part of its vast ancient peace, let go of my voice now, let go of the story. That remains is the sense of Cam have traveled together through this boring day. We have found the beauty in its rhythms and its quiet and dinjim. I'm your host, Nasrullah from History Lullubay. It's time for you to enjoy the full and complete rest that you deserve. May your slumber be deep and dreamless. May your dreams, if they come, be filled in light sleep. Well, my friend, until we drift again in the gentle tides of history, peaceful slumber, good night.